Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Cat Astro YouTube channel, the channel for you to hopefully explain some of the basics and fundamentals around astrophotography. This is my third attempt at this video tonight, so apologies if I seem a bit pinchy, but let's see how we get on. So, for those of you that have tuned in before, yes, I've changed my opening screen. I figure if I'm going to be called Cat Astro, I need to show my cats. So there's Romeo in his usual position at the bottom, and Eloisa forever looking over everything that's happening. And she's a real antagonist. I love them to bits. So again, as this is an astrophotography channel, I figure I should show at least some images that I've taken, not show off, but show some. So here's the Horsehead Nebula, IC434, and friends. Particular friend being the Flame Nebula, one of the most iconic images in the sky, taken from my own very back garden with my own very basic equipment. So just an idea what you can actually achieve with this hobby, passion, pursuit. So let's talk about the basic setup, part one. Tripods and mounts. So again, some quick top tips that I've learned over the years of this hobby. So Cat Astro's equipment top tips. Buy once, cry once. What does that mean? It means it's not a cheap hobby. Think long and hard about the investment you're going to make, and make sure it pays off. It's like anything, the amount of individuals that buy expensive bicycles, be them normal bicycles or e-bikes, and they use them a few times. This hobby is no different. So always consider what you're going to do with it, which is my next point. How much time do you want to spend with this hobby? I'm totally addicted to the weather forecast. I will look at it on a number of times a day, and to get the most out of my investment and the most out of my hobby, if the skies are clear, I will sacrifice sleep to get some imaging in. So you need to consider how much time. Two choices. You got the beginning one, which is what I did, all the gear and no idea, and then you learn, or you start with the basics. I started with all the gear and no idea, and then I learned the hard way. A lot of frustration, a lot of crying, maybe not, but a lot of frustration. But I feel I've got to a reasonable level now, but there's still a long way to go. Research, research, research. I mean, it's the beauty of this hobby. There's a lot of individuals on this planet that are very passionate about this pursuit, and fortunately for us, they're willing to share their lessons. They're willing to share their ideas. They're willing to share their knowledge. So spend a lot of time researching. And again, I'll say it again, buy once, cry once. So right from the basics. So this is a basic tripod and mount. And as you can see on the left-hand side, I've weighed it down because it is quite flimsy with a bag courtesy of my daughter. So that's a bag full of play sand, believe it or not. Pros, it's inexpensive. This is entry level and it's very basic. It's portable. Without the bag, it's extremely light. You just fold it all down, all the legs collapse into the center, and you can just pop it into a rucksack. Very suitable for a DSLR or a phone adapter. Cons, stability. It's not the most stable tripod. You can see how thin the legs are. You knock it, it will fall over. Bit of wind, it will fall over. So you need to consider that. Weight capacity, suitable for a DSLR or a smartphone. Other than that, I wouldn't trust it. Future proof, again, it's limited. However, I still use this. This is my grab and go kit for Milky Way sessions or comet sessions with a DSLR. So over the last 2 months, I've taken it to a field nearby for some Milky Way shots, and when the comet was close, I put it on the terrace or the balcony and grabbed some shots of the comet. So yeah, still my go-to for those sessions. Tripod and clockwork mount. This is quite an interesting one. This was a purchase I made a while back from astroshop.eu. And before I go any further, I'm not sponsored at all. I have 11 subscribers at the moment. I'm hoping that will climb soon. However, this was an interesting piece of kit. So it's a better quality tripod. So that came separate. And the Omegon mini mount, I think this is the Ellux Quattro Plus. It comes with a polar finder, so you can see the little polar scope to the left. And also you get a ball head and polar wedge. And again, we'll talk about polar alignments another session, maybe not today, but that's optional extras. So it pretty much becomes, maximum payload, 4 kilos. So starting to get into the small refractor weight limits, no power required. So this is what I was going to go with this. It's literally wind it up and let it go. So it's a tracking mount that doesn't require power. No batteries, no cables, no nothing. And again, polar alignment. I want to do, my next video will be about polar alignment. But it can successfully achieve 2 minutes without star trails, depending on your polar alignment and your balancing. So it's a pretty cool piece of kit and portable. Cons, stability. You're still at that very light end of the spectrum when it comes to tripods and mounts. So again, you need to be super careful with the balancing, the tracking, and moving just past it, and the wind. Weight capacity, as I've mentioned. However, with the cons, it's always in my suitcase. So whenever I go on holiday, I take this, fold it all down, put it in the suitcase with my DSLR and a few different lenses, and off I go. Tripod and Alt AZ mount. The pros. So this for me was part of a Skywatcher Mach 127 package, and I'll do an episode on telescopes in a future time. However, my wife bought this for me back in 2013, and it came with the telescope and this particular mount. It's Alt AZ, Alt Azimuth. It's reasonably priced. You can actually run this mount off 8 AA batteries. It comes with an interesting looking pouch that you pop the batteries in and you can plug it in and you can run the mount from that 8 AA batteries. Tracking capabilities is properly polar aligned. And again, I will keep mentioning this, properly polar aligned PPA. And it is really good for the planets and the moon, especially with the Skywatcher Mach 127 telescope. Cons. It has limited go-to functionality. It's your kind of gateway into tracking. However, you're not going to be able to track and focus and go to too many targets. Limited weight capacity. You can see the legs are better than the previous ones. However, it's still not the most sturdiest. However, having said that, I mean, I've still had some really good evenings with the Moon, Jupiter, and Saturn, even imaging Saturn, the rings, and getting the Cassini division. What I tend to do in some evenings, if I have the energy, is I will set up my main rig, let that run, and do some deep sky imaging, and then I'll take this one out with the Mach 127 and do some planets. It's the beauty of this hobby. So on to the next, the German equatorial mount. So here we see the Skywatcher HEQ5 Pro unmodified. And for those of you with good eyesight, you can see that attached to it is my ASI Air Plus, lovingly, carefully velcroed to the side of the mount. One of these days, I'll show you my setup. I don't do cable management, and I certainly don't do aesthetics, but it works. So the pros. It's normally sold with a tripod, and you can see um, this tripod is far sturdier. The legs are far thicker, and means you can do a lot more with the balancing, a lot more with the weights. Payload 14 kilograms max per the spec. Be very careful with that. It may say 14 kilos, but when it comes to accurate tracking, the advice is always reduce it to 60, maybe 70% of the capacity. I was hoping at some point this weekend to do a live feed. However, I think it's going to be a long, long time before the clouds disappear from Lower Austria. I keep looking at the forecast. Who knows? Maybe. Long history. So the HEQ5 Pro has been out for well over 10 years. So it's tried, it's tested, uh, and it's very, very trustworthy. Versatility. So it can be modified. You can actually upgrade the gearing mechanism to a belt drive that's should improve tracking performance. I haven't upgraded mine purely because I don't tend to go above 3, maybe 4 minute exposures, and so far so good. So one of the things I've learned in this hobby is if it's not broken, why fix it? Full go-to and tracking capabilities. As I mentioned earlier, I've used this for multiple targets, multiple targets. This is my go-to. And also you can run it with the supplied hand controller, which I don't have connected here because I'm running it through the ASI Air, which is then run via the tablet, mobile, laptop, or whatever. So yes, it's fully versatile. And as I mentioned, I've used this mount to image with my scope the moon, planets, nebula, galaxies, comets, and yes, even asteroids. I've managed to get this to track asteroids. And one thing to always remember, you're not pointing the telescope, you're pointing the mount. And if you think about it, there's there's little connection between your telescope and the mount. So the mount is the most important piece of equipment you will buy. Spend the money on the mount. The better quality the mount, the better quality tracking, the better quality imaging. So it really is all about the mount. And what are the pros? Oh, the cons. Sorry, long day. Cost. It's not cheap. Buy once, cry once. I bought this once, I cried once, and after that, still very happy. Requires power. So yeah, think about power bank, think about your electricity supply. How do you power this? It's once it's set up, once it's running, the power usage is not that high. but you still need to consider that. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have a mains power supply close to where I image in the back garden. However, with the power bank, you need to think about how long you'll image for and how long that power bank will last. And yes, when you get to a certain age, like mine, this thing can get heavy. So with the counterweight, I think the current setup I have imaged here is for the Red Cat 51. So the mount and the counterweight is about 15 kilos. If I go for my bigger scope, it probably increases to 20, maybe 25 kilos. So yes, it's fine at 6 o'clock in the evening when you're wide awake and you can carry this thing out of your shed, your garage, your summer house, or whatever. But you do need to consider when it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you're half asleep and you need to carry it back in. And that for me that's always an interesting one. And let's not talk about ice and snow, because sometimes the best imaging scenarios they come with temperatures -10, -15 here. So, however, it's still my go-to mount for most imaging sessions. So not so sure if I mentioned this, but my videos from now on will feature a line from a famous song. So just as a bit of fun, if you picked up the quote from a famous song, do feel free to add a comment, and I promise I will respond uh, with whether you're correct or not. So I want the name of the song and the artist. I don't want the year. Um, None of us getting younger. But yeah, feel free to add a comment. And also, if there's any particular subjects, any points in this video that you'd like an expansion on, please, please, please do comment. And obviously, I'm going to say the usual YouTube thing: smash that subscribe button. But in the meantime, stay healthy, stay safe. TTFN.